How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? And welcome to a brand new episode of Strictly Nintendo, where we are going to take a look at Mutant Mudds Deluxe, an indie game brought to the eShop by Renegade Kid, in which you assume the role of Max, a mild-mannered kid who enjoys spending his free time playing games. Well, that's until a meteor strikes the Earth, and the planet soon finds itself overrun by mutant mud monsters. So in epic hero fashion, Max sets out with his water gun and jetpack to fight the mutant mudds and save the planet. The storyline is tantamount to a child's imagination. It's fun and playful and is something that can appeal to anyone of any age, and it plays nicely to the overall theme of the game in being a classic side-scrolling retro platformer. You know, somewhere in between the NES and the SNES, it's a 12-bit platformer that really brings that classic feel in a very calculated and precise way. You know, looking at the graphics, it's absolutely beautiful. You get all that beautiful pixelated blocky graphics of retro games, but with the benefits of HD, with the cleaner, crisper lines, the better contrast, and the vibrant colors. And surprisingly, for a 2D side-scroller, there's a nice depth to the levels which they created by having different layers. You have a middle ground, foreground, and a background, which they don't just create that depth with size differentials, but whatever layers you're not on, there's a nice soft blur to them, creating a nice depth of field. So if you grew up playing NES, SNES games, you know, you're going to have all of that great retro graphics, but then you're going to have the liveliness that HD brings to it, and it's something that's really enjoyable to your eyes, whether you're playing it on the TV or on the gamepad itself. Furthermore, that blend of having the retro that benefits from the modern, that's carried on by the audio. Not only do you have all those classic, lovely chip-based sounds, you have the cleanliness and the detail of modern digital audio. And it's all wrapped up in amazingly perfect compositions. These are really lively, really upbeat and energetic, and the music just really adds to the overall feel and character and theme of the game. And as a musician, as a gamer, I love this. It catapulted me again back to the 80s, early 90s, and it's just something that I thoroughly enjoyed about this game. Now, the mechanics of the game are very simple. There's nothing complex about it by any stretch of the imagination, and everything that you can do, you learn in the very first level, which is a simplistic tutorial level. But platforming games have always been about timing and rhythm. You have to get that down to properly traverse the levels. So if the controls suck, so does the game. But that's not the case here. The controls are actually really tight, really responsive, and well polished. And that lends itself to providing a quality gaming experience, which is important with Mutant Mudds Deluxe, because this game provides 5 unique worlds with a total of 80 levels. When you make it to the end of a level, you'll collect a little water sprite shield, which will unlock additional levels. And the levels get harder as you progress through the game, and this is presented in a couple different ways, from the environment, where you'll have larger pits that you have to clear, to smaller platforms to land on, moving platforms, and different environments such as the Arctic environment where you walk across ice. And when you're walking across that ice, you have less traction, so it's a little harder to get that run started, and it's a little harder to stop. You also have a multitude of enemies that you have to face off with, as well as an increasing number of enemies in the levels to add to the challenge. And as you make your way through the levels, you'll also collect little gold diamonds. There's 100 per level to collect, and these will unlock upgrades that you can access through Grandma's attic. And these upgrades include a longer distance shot for your weapon, as well as a longer boost for your jetpack to clear larger pits. And there might be some other things that you can unlock, but you're going to have to play the game to discover those. And overall, there's a nice balance to the game. While it's challenging, it's not frustratingly so. So even if you have an issue, you're having a hard time with a level, you're not going to rage quit. You're not going to want to give up. You're going to want to keep playing. It's a really fun game, and they meet that balance across the board. And as you make your way through the levels, when you get to the halfway point, there's a checkpoint. And if you die past that checkpoint, then you start over at that checkpoint, and it really keeps the game fun and fresh for anyone of all ages. Now, if I had one major complaint about the game, it has to do with the checkpoints, and let me explain. You have a timer on each level. You have 4 minutes to beat each level. If you make it to that checkpoint and you die, then when you respawn at the checkpoint, you have 4 minutes on the clock. To me, that's counterintuitive to the overall balance that is underlying throughout the game. I think that if the levels are designed to be beaten in 4 minutes, well, if you die past the checkpoint, you're respawned at the checkpoint with only 2 minutes on the clock. Half the time because you're halfway through the level. If you get to that checkpoint within a minute and you have 3 minutes on the clock and then you die and you respawn, you're going to have 2 minutes. You're clearly not having a problem with the game, so this will just add to the challenge, which you should be up for. Now, if you're struggling with the game and you make it to that checkpoint with 45 seconds left over, well, now you're gaining a minute and 15 seconds, which is just a little bit of a grace, a little bit of a balance to really kind of just even things out, in my opinion. I think that would have been a little bit better design, but that's just my opinion anyway. Overall, the game is a ton of fun, and for us Wii U owners, not only do you get the challenge, not only do you get the cool retro gaming and all the levels and all the upgrades and everything, we also get an additional 20 ghost levels, which are exclusive to the Wii U, and that's nice to see that love from Renegade Kid to us Nintendo fans. Mutant Mudds Deluxe is a game that I thoroughly enjoyed. I found myself being catapulted back to the late 80s, early 90s. I found it reminiscent of games like Kid Icarus. So if you're like me and you grew up on the NES and SNES, and you have that nostalgic itch that needs scratching, this is a game that I highly recommend. Likewise, if you're a younger gamer and you haven't had the opportunity to play those old consoles, but you're interested in retro games, or if you've played some retro games on the VC and you want more experiences like that, Mutant Mudds is definitely something to check out. Plus, if you find yourself liking this game and saying, man, I wish I could play it on the road, well, there is the original Mutant Mudds available for the 3DS, so you can play it when you're away from your console. And furthermore, if you make it through all 80 levels and you find yourself just wanting more Mutant Mudds, there is Mutant Mudds Super Challenge coming out on the eShop later this year. And that's something that I definitely suggest keeping your eye on, as well as keeping your eye on Renegade Kid. After playing Mutant Mudds Deluxe, I'm definitely interested in what else they have to offer. And that will do it for this episode of Strictly Nintendo. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope to see you in the next episode. Take care.